Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Amobi Okugo, host of Money Talks, a new podcast from a frugal athlete in partnership with Billion or Bust Media. Money Talks explores the world of business behind professional athletes. I speak with financial advisors, business managers, marketing and PR professionals who specialize in running the business of being a pro athlete. Tune into Money Talks on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find new episodes on billionourbustmedia.com and afrugalathlete.com. Again, billionourbustmedia.com or afrugalathlete.com.
Good day, people, and welcome to the 2 Cents Podcast. My name is Jay Richardson, and I am your host. As always, I'm not even sure why I just announced my name, but as I always say to you guys every week, man, like, subscribe, and please share. Love the feedback we're getting. Loved all of the feedback I got from the episode last week with my good friend and special guest, Maurice Claret. He was very, very forthcoming, just honest and transparent. That's what I love about that guy. He's just raw. He's like, you know, in a lot of ways, he's like the Mike Tyson of college football at the time. You know, he was just this raw kid, and he always is going to give you a straight answer, and he's done so well for himself, and I'm super proud of him. And I'm really happy about that episode. One of my favorites by far. That's my guy. Now, today's episode got a handful of topics I want to get into. We're going to talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson and everyone announcing that he could be an MVP candidate. We're going to talk about the Niners and, you know, were they fool's gold? Are they the real deal? Is Jimmy G the answer? Got to talk about the guy that just took him down, Russell Wilson. He's clearly MVP candidate. We'll talk a little about the NBA, load management, what we're expecting out of the NBA this year, and just some of the storylines briefly. And then, of course, we are going to have to bite the big old elephant in the room, and that is the Colin Kaepernick workout. So save that for last. First things first, Lamar Jackson is lighting up the NFL in year two. So much of a fuss was made about the fact that a lot of people thought coming out of Louisville he could not throw and that he was not going to be able to read defenses. He was going to be a running back. All of these things that they usually say about dual threat mobile quarterbacks, which a lot of times seems to be code for black quarterbacks, and that's exactly what he is, because he gets no blacker than Lamar Jackson. And let me tell you something, this kid has gone out there and showed every single week this season that not only is he more than just a running back, not only can he read defenses, but he's a winner. And I think that's something, you know, Baltimore sitting at 7-2 with him as the starter. That Joe Flacco, deal now doesn't look so bad, getting him and one out of town. And at the time, everyone thought they're going to regret this. But, you know, here the Ravens are at 7-2, ready to take over the division. And they're going to be in the playoffs. And I think he's going to become a matchup nightmare. We saw it with Bill Belichick. And we just saw it again. Obviously, it was against the Cincinnati Bengals. But that's not really the point. The point is this. The point is how he does it. He's an electric athlete. We haven't seen a guy like this. Everyone's going to say Michael Vick. And, yeah, it's only because that's the closest comparison. I actually think Michael Vick had a beautiful throwing motion and could throw the ball a mile and a half. I think Michael Vick actually, during his career, especially early on, undersold himself as a passer because his legs and his athletic ability was so elite that he just used it so often. And really, Michael Vick was a fantastic thrower of the football. Late in his career, he was just so banged up. And I don't want to see that happen to Lamar, but Lamar runs differently than Vick. Yeah, Vick was, could stop on a dime, and Vick had that downhill speed, and he just looked silky smooth. Lamar is athletic on the same level. I don't know if it's like the next level, but it's the way it looks, right? He's a little bit taller than Mike, a little bit slimmer than Mike, still strong. You can tell in the post-game press conferences when you see his neck, he should be able to take a hit with that neck because he got one of them brontosaurus necks. But what I love about the kid, his eyes really are downfield. He's looking to make a play with his arm first. When it breaks down, he's extremely decisive, right? He's not hesitating. He just takes off. If he's going to take off, he's going to take off. He's going to throw, he's going to throw. And he makes his decisions quickly, decisively, and he's such a matchup nightmare. You can try to keep a spy in there, but there's not a spy in the NFL that's going to be able to stay with him because of his lateral quickness. The spin move he put on those two defenders for the Bengals was a highlight reel that we're going to be seeing for decades to come, just because that's just such a cool play visually, right? It's just, you see him accelerate, stop, spin, accelerate again. Not too many guys can accelerate and decelerate at that kind of rate and still maintain momentum and be able to have that vision, right? He's got running back vision. I know he hates hearing that any comparisons to a running back, but it's true. He has elite running back vision, and yet the kid can still throw the ball. I mean, the kid can still put it out there and make plays, and I think that, to me, is the most important thing that people need to understand. This guy is not just a running back. When you look at his yards, over 2,000 yards already, 15 touchdowns, 5 picks, 76.2 QBR. These are very, very good numbers. I mean, the kid is special, and he's changing the game, and I think John Harbaugh is loving it. He's trying to, he's trying not to shower too much praise on him, because I get that. He wants to keep his head in the right space, keep him motivated, keep him hungry for more. He went 15 of 17 for 223 yards and 3 touchdowns. It just looks so elite, and it's the way it looks out there. He looks like he's playing at a different speed than the rest of the team, and it's difficult. This kid's special. I just, when you think about, can you win a Super Bowl with a guy like this? Because the last guy I saw to be able to play like this and get to a Super Bowl was Colin Kaepernick, right, with the Niners, coached by another Harbaugh. So there's no, to me that's not a coincidence, right? I got a feeling Jim and John had a talk, and I bet you, John said, hey, when you had Colin, what kind of offenses did you guys run? Where did you guys look to gash your defense? Because I got a guy real similar, definitely faster, and still has a great arm in Lamar. And I bet you if you're a defender in the NFL, or you're a defensive coordinator about to play the Ravens, you're going to want to look at some of that film from, I don't know, what was that, like 2015, 2014, maybe about 2014, I believe it was, Niners, where Kaepernick was lighting it up, because it's a very similar athlete. And, those two brothers, they eat family dinners together. They exchange, I'm sure, scheme and stories, and I got a feeling there's a connection there. That's a little tidbit for all you defensive coordinators in the NFL who listen to my podcast. But no, I just think he's doing so many amazing things. I'm just so curious to see, can a guy win a Super Bowl? Can an offense be a Super Bowl caliber offense playing with a mobile quarterback? Because it's been a long time since we've seen a mobile quarterback win a Super Bowl, right? I don't know. Cam Newton got close. He won MVP that year. But at the end of the day, it's always Tom Brady hoisting the trophy, it seems like. I'm pulling for Lamar Jackson because the kid's next level. Now, the 49ers, who were 8-0, who were looking like, the most dominant defense in the league, led by Nick Bosa and Buckner and that whole defensive line, linebackers, Richard Sherman out there covering people. They looked very, very dominant. I know Emmanuel Sanders was hurt, but they lined up against Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. And I got to say, as I watched that game that went into overtime, I kept thinking to myself, oh my goodness, it is true. Everyone kept saying it, and they talked about it in practice with the Niners, and everyone talked about how he looked throwing the football in practice and how he was throwing picks left and right in practice, and how everyone was really kind of, a little concerned, and even the coaches didn't want some of that practice film to get out, or they didn't want media at some of their practices over the summer and even in fall camp. But the reality to me is, and no one wants to say it yet publicly, Jimmy Garoppolo is not the answer. Jimmy G's is not as advertised. Yeah, you get to make $100 million and bang porn stars, Jimmy, but when it comes time to make a play and you need someone who's going to get it done, and there's no Emmanuel Sanders, and your tight end Kittle's out, and it's all on you, Jimmy G. You know what I saw? I saw a guy who not only looked flustered, and I get it, Jadeveon Clowney was having an unreal night, had a touchdown, had 5 tackles for loss, had a sack, caused fumble. Yeah. He was a terror out there. Shout out to Jadeveon Clowney, who really did look, who finally looked like, the top 2 pick that he was, and is kind of growing into this dominant player, which I love to see, because I'm obviously a defensive end formerly, and I just like to see guys dominate on the edge. But when I watched Jimmy G, I watched a guy who was literally out there seeing ghosts, He threw the ball. Let me tell you something. That game could have ended so much faster for Seattle if any of their linebackers could catch. Seattle linebackers have feet for hands because they dropped so many game-ending interceptions that it made my head hurt. I'm like, dude, just end the game. Just catch it. KJ Wright, just catch the ball, baby, and the game's over. Jimmy G was throwing the football directly into these guys' stomachs, and they didn't want to catch it. And he looked flustered. He talked about it a little bit after the game, but he really, really looked not just flustered. He looked like he didn't know what the hell he was doing. I mean, and the balls were floating on him too. Some of the times he just made the wrong read, was reading, the defense improperly. Some of the times he made the right read and couldn't execute the throw. That to me is not a guy worth $100 million. That's a guy that was in a Patriot system that made him look real good. That's a guy that when the defense is playing out of its mind and all of his athletes are there at the skill positions, he can manage the game. But I'm sorry, San Fran overpaid for a game manager, and that's just what it is. He could still develop and things could go good for him, but right now I'm not liking it. Something I have to discuss briefly that just rubbed me. I get why they're doing it, but it made me feel a little bit nervous for this young brother is Dwayne Haskins was just named the starter for the rest of the season by the Washington Redskins. And I'll just say that team in Washington because I still feel like Redskin is a slur and no one ever addressed that. And Daniel Snyder does not want to change the name. Whatever. That's a whole nother podcast. Right now, I want to talk about Dwayne Haskins really quickly. I think the fix is in. This to me is, I pray he doesn't get sabotaged, but I don't want my former Ohio State Buckeye out there behind that horrible offensive line. Trent Williams never got re-signed. He has too many trust issues with this franchise. It's a patchwork offensive line. You don't have all of your weapons at tight end, at receiver, and you just have Haskins out there trying to figure it out. Coming from a coaching staff, before Jay Gruden got let go, that clearly was trying to sabotage him. And who's he supposed to learn from? Colt McCoy is not the guy that's going to be teaching him how to be a great quarterback. There's not really any mentorship there. I hope that Alex Smith is at least in the building and involved and helping mentor Dwayne. Alex is the perfect guy for that, but I don't know if he's in rehab while they're in meetings or what. But the whole thing comes down to this. They named him the starter. I know the owner loves him, and he's been kind of labeled the owner's guy in the building, which is a bad label to have. I had it as a rookie. I got a lot of crap from the older guys when I was a rookie because, it was, you were Al Davis's pick. You were the owner's pick. From what I hear, the GM didn't even want you, the coach didn't even want you, but, Al D's going to make sure you start. And then I went out there, I played, and I performed, and I had to earn the respect. He's going to have to do that too. It's just how it is. When you're labeled the owner's pick, you got to go out there and you got to earn your respect. He'll do what he has to do. I don't want this to be a setup, man, because the kid is special, and how you start your career, where you learn, where you get your start is everything. Even when you look at Aaron Rodgers, you got to sit behind Brett Favre. Tom Brady had Drew Bledsoe in front of him. You got, you need some sort of mentorship in this league in order to have a long career. Usually it helps. It helps a lot, whether that comes from a player or a coach that's kind of a QB guru like a McVay, or even a Kyle Shanahan, one of these guys that really know how to help quarterbacks. I don't see any guy like that in the building for the Washington Redskins except for Alex Smith, and like I said, I'm not sure how involved he is. So them naming him the starter could go one of two ways. He's either going to, trial by fire, figure it out, and get a lot of bumps and bruises and come out next year, with a renewed sense of humility, but also know all the things not to do. Or he's going to leave this year, really questioning himself, and that's not what you want. You don't want a young guy with self-doubt. Russell Wilson, just doubling back to that 49ers game, Russell Wilson showed you why right now he should be the front runner for MVP. I'm not even going to get into his numbers. His numbers are all right there at the very top. But what I love about Russell Wilson is he's clutch, man. Whenever the game's on the line, there were a couple drops. DK Metcalf dropped a big-time third down pass that would have converted things for them and probably ended the game even sooner than they did have to end it. And it was basically because Russell Wilson threw a dime out of this world, man. I mean, he put the ball where only Metcalf could get it, and then Metcalf, the whole Seattle team needs ball drills, man. They got to be in there on the jugs machines, linebackers, Metcalf, some of the receivers, because there were some drops. And I know Russell Wilson, man, he's just such a humble, straight-laced guy. He's not gonna get on him too bad, but he really should have. I'd have been cussing him out. Aaron Rodgers would have cussed him out. but that's just not Russell's style. It's just hard to watch that because you're like, come on, he's out there dropping dimes and you guys are dropping the football, and that's not gonna cut it against next level teams. I don't think San Fran is a next level team. However, you got to give Russ all the credit in the world. He might be the most clutch player in the NFL right now, and that's just how it is. I want to quickly talk about the NBA. Everyone's talking about this load management stuff as if Kawhi Leonard didn't do this all the time, Greg Popovich, and these guys really started this, and they were doing it with Tim Duncan and Manu and Tony Parker, because at the time you had aging veterans who had injuries, and you know what? You're just not going to play them an entire season, 82 games. I get that. Old school guys will say, we never had load management back in the 80s and the 90s when we played way more physical than you guys did. I can't disagree with that. The game was way more physical. However, the game is at a different pace right now. More points are being scored at the three-point line, stretches the floor, and guys are having to do a lot more running than they did in the 80s and 90s with that half-court offense. Everything is now a full tilt run-and-gun game, and it just looks different. And I think people have to kind of understand that this is a much different game than it was in the 80s and 90s, and I think teams are just getting smarter, So yeah, of course, Doc Rivers is going to rest Kawhi as much as he can, because fans don't watch NBA basketball regularly until the playoffs start, and that's the biggest thing. On the flip side of it, if you want people to patronize your product and show up for games, well, you got to make sure your best players are on the floor. Otherwise, why would I spend $200 for a ticket to show up and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard aren't playing? Well, who am I going to watch? I don't want to see Patrick Beverley run around with that awful hair and play defense. That's not what I showed up for. That's not going to help. That's not going to entertain me as a fan. I don't want to show up, to a Lakers game and see LeBron and AD not playing and watch KCP miss layups. That's going to break my heart as a fan to watch. So I get and understand the fans' perspective as well. And you're talking about entertainment business. I know it's sports, but it's entertainment. If you're going to entertain, you got to have all your best folks out. You're not going to tune into your favorite sitcom and the star of the sitcom is not in that show that day. That's ridiculous, right? So it's the same thing with teams. So there's kind of a back and forth there, and common ground needs to be found at some point. And I got a feeling you're going to see Adam Silver make some kind of ruling in the next season or so about load management, or I guess with the next CBA, the NBA has to agree on, because that's not going to fly much longer. I think people are getting more and more annoyed by that. And I can't argue with the fans. I can never argue, because it's kind of the truth. Briefly, and this is really important to me because this involves my Buckeyes, but we found out yesterday that Chase Young will only serve a 2-game suspension. The NCAA ruled. Fantastic news. I know everyone's excited about that. I'm excited. He's going to miss Maryland and Rutgers, which we already missed Maryland, whatever. We put up a basketball score against Maryland. It was like 70-something. We'll probably do the same to Rutgers. And we won't really need him till Penn State and Michigan. And honestly, I got a feeling we could win those 2 games without him. But, man, it's going to be so much more fun to do it with him. Here's the thing about this. The NCAA is now walking back a lot of things that they've done. And when you're seeing, even like the Wiseman kid, you're about to see something happen with him. He's the player from Memphis who also, got ruled out for the year and eligible today. And I think that they're going to double back on that. The NCAA is slowly realizing that they're losing miserably in the court of public opinion. The people are finally waking up to the idea that these collegiate athletes are being taken advantage of. And I think that is something that you can't understate that enough. Like they're being I can't overstate it enough. These college athletes are being taken advantage of, and every opportunity that they have to do for themselves or to make something happen for themselves, it gets scrutinized and it gets torn to pieces. Chase Young got a small loan from a family friend to fly his girlfriend to the Rose Bowl a couple years back, and that is coming back to bite him in the butt, a year and a half later, to where he's going to miss 2 games. That's ridiculous. If a kid needs some help and someone helps the kid out that's associated with his family, that should be no one's business but the folks who were involved in that transaction. And, the most frustrating thing to me is, and I guess mysterious thing is, I want to know how it got out. And I think that's the only thing that looks sketchy in all this, is how did it even get out? If that truly is a family friend, no one should have been discussing it. It should have been, hey, man, look, hold this, get it back to me when you can. Cool, you got it back to me. Everything's cool. Loans pay back, no big deal. How does the NCAA know about this, right? Like, how did the OSU compliance office get word of this? Tons of conspiracy theories, right? Some folks are like, oh, somebody from Maryland because he's from Maryland, and they want. Look, I don't buy into that. Others are saying, yeah, he was probably playing the agent game, right? Like, he probably told a couple different agents, hey, this is what I'll roll with you if you let me hold something. I'll roll with you if you let me hold something. And then agents talk just like athletes do. They're at bars, flying all across the country, at hotel lobbies and bars, hanging out, talking, going, ooh, I just kind of, solidified things with Chase Young or with Joe Burrow or whatever. And then, the other guy goes, oh, so did I. And they goes, wait, hold on. He told you the same thing he told me? And then somebody gets dimed out. I'm not saying that happened. I really do hope it truly is just a family friend. And that's just how it went down. And for some reason, it got out. But Chase was very forthcoming about it. And it was all paid back. And he will be playing. But it just goes to the further... It speaks to the point that, dude, aren't we all sick of this? Like, isn't everyone? And I think everyone is. People are just sick of the NCAA. They're sick of these dumb rules and the NCAA investigating things that don't matter, and all it does is hurt the product, right? The product being college sports. When the best players aren't playing, the people who watch it are the only ones that lose. Because guess what? This time next year, Chase is going to be a millionaire. So he didn't really lose anything. Who lost? The fans, the people that watch, the people that buy and participate in college sports. We're the ones that lose. All for what? If I had to put the NCAA in a room and ask them this question, my first question would be, you guys just made sure Chase missed 2 games. Who won? Like, really, who won? Who was the winner? Who benefited from him missing these 2 games? Not the viewers, not the fans, not the team. The only people that benefit are Rutgers and Maryland, because, good God, he would have destroyed both of those teams. We know that. But that's all stuff that is going to change in 2021, and I cannot wait to find out what those rules are when it finally does change. Now, for the biggest news of the week, the news everyone's talking about, and that I'll be talking about again on ABC 6 on camera, Colin Kaepernick gets a organized workout with the NFL that was, and here's the important thing to stress, this workout was set up by the NFL, meaning the NFL contacted Colin Kaepernick and said, listen, we want to set up a workout for you. It's going to be on a Saturday at 3 o'clock, this Saturday at 3 o'clock, and we want as many NFL teams there as we can get, so we're going to contact them all, and we're going to contact the press. And that, to me, is what made my antennas go up, right? NFL issued a press release to all major media outlets. Hey, we're going to work out Colin Kaepernick. We're going to give him an opportunity to get back in the NFL and yada, yada, yada. And a part of me wants to be inspired by this. A part of me wants to think to myself, man, the NFL's finally figuring it out. The NFL's finally making some progress. They finally, aren't blackballing Cap, and they're finally going to give a guy an opportunity to just do what he loves to do at a high level. We all know when he left the game, he was playing at a pretty damn high level. He was a starter in this league, and I don't understand why. Obviously I understand why all of a sudden he's out the league. We all know why. And for those who don't, Colin Kaepernick is was the most polarizing figure in sports for about 3 years, because he knelt during the national anthem, and everyone knows the story about social injustice, and it became something that just dominated American culture. Not even sports culture or political culture. Everyone knows who this guy is now, to the point where the NFL felt like he was too polarizing of a character to have on a roster in their league. I don't think people understand what that means, because the NFL is show business. So whether someone loves someone or hates someone, everyone knows in show business, any press is great press. People knowing who you are is the most important thing in show business. This is why you see certain actors who might be awful always have opportunities, because people know who they are. This is why Kim Kardashian still has a television show on E, right? Because whether you love her or hate her, she's notable. People know who she is. She'll always be out there. I never thought I'd see the day where there was an athlete that was so polarizing, so well known, that the NFL was like, nah, we can't have this guy out there. And it's because of why he was so well known, right? Whenever you start to get labeled, unpatriotic or get labeled as someone that quote unquote hates America, and you having a business in America that's televised, it becomes a very, very sticky situation. We all know Cap doesn't hate America. We know he loves America. We know he loves it so much that he was willing to risk his career to try to improve relations between, law enforcement, people of color. That was why he was kneeling. We all know that. But that's not the point. It's the optics of it all. So I had to go into that so people understand why this is such a big deal, that the NFL is trying to at least present the appearance or the optics that they're giving him an opportunity back. It means a couple things to me. It means, one, the NFL knows they're struggling PR-wise. It means the NFL knows that people don't trust the NFL. People think the NFL is shady. And, I don't know. It's hard to argue with that, right? It also means that there's a lot of teams, coaches and GMs around this league that genuinely want him on their football team. We all know, John Harbaugh was trying to get his owner to clear it, to be able to bring Cap on. We all thought Cap was going to be a Raven, if not for a tweet from Cap's girlfriend Nisa, ill-timed tweet a year ago or a year or two ago, or whenever that was, where I don't want to get into what she said. The point is, not too smart of her, and it stoked the fires again. And then I guess the Ravens brass was like, nah. Let's just not even pull the trigger on that one. It's still too hot right now. Let's give it a little bit more time to die down. And they end up having Lamar Jackson, who's like a souped-up version of Cap anyway. But what it also means to me, and I think people, are going to think this is cynical of me, and it is, because I have grown a bit cynical in my old age. But it reeks of disingenuousness, right? Like, it's just I'm questioning the integrity of the NFL's workout with Colin Kaepernick, right? They call Cap up. Not like they gave him a month head up or 2 months heads up to get in shape. We all are assuming he's in great shape. If you follow him on social media, he posts a lot of workout, videos, and he works out with a lot of current NFL athletes, receivers, throwing the football around. So he's in good shape. But they only gave him 10 days, a week. Hey, next Saturday, we're going to host a workout for you, and we want everyone there, and we want you there. It's like, whoa. You're going to just give me that's something you usually give a guy a good, 3 weeks heads up, or at least, try to give him a month so he can just, get some things tweaked, make sure he's in the best possible shape. And also, it's been a while. I don't know how long it's been since he's thrown a football, and really thrown some NFL routes to receivers and all that stuff. I don't know which receivers are going to have run routes for him on Saturday. But the point is, it all seems kind of slapped together. And then what do? They call all the media outlets, and they're saying, hey, make sure you guys are all covering this and talking about it, because at least, y'all can't say we didn't give him a shot. It all seems like a setup. So if he goes out there and looks like crap, they can go, see, he was never really the real deal. He was never ready to go. And I don't think that's fair to Kaepernick. And I could see him being like, you know what? I'm not showing up for that. Like, y'all not even give me a real shot. That's one scenario. Another scenario is, this truly does mean that a lot of teams have been asking about him, because we already know now 11 teams are confirmed that they're going to be there, including the Dallas Cowboys are going to have some scouts there. I think the head coach, Patricia, and the GM for the Detroit Lions are going to be there. Ravens are going to be there. A lot of teams are going to be there, right? There are some of those teams that really are looking at him going, hey, is this a guy that's a viable option? Can we bring him in off the street for a league minimum contract and put him and plug him right into our system and get him ready to go? Because there's so much awful quarterback play in the NFL, and there's so many injuries. And with the success of Lamar Jackson, I think that actually looks really good for Cap, because you're seeing these mobile quarterbacks, Kyler Murray and all these guys who are becoming really, really legitimate, viable starting options in these offenses, and it just makes sense, right? So the hopeful part of me is going, you know what? He might actually get a legit shot, and he might mess around and get signed, because every dude who's ever worked out for an NFL team, myself included, I've had about 5 NFL workouts when I was, on my way out of the league, and you always know, unless a GM or a head coach is in the building or on the field watching you when you work out, no one's going to sign you. Well, there's going to be a couple head coaches there. So that makes me think there's actually a legitimate chance of him getting signed. And then on the flip side, I think there's a legitimate chance that this is all just a show and a farce put on by the NFL to, I guess, help their PR. But then when I think about it like that, I think to myself, why? Why even bring it up right now? Kaepernick it'd been 3 years. He was, almost, an afterthought. He had his settlement that he won from the NFL, undisclosed amount. He could have just rolled off to the sunset. No big deal. No one's talking about it anymore. If you're the NFL, why bring it up right now? Why get everyone talking about it again? And I guess that's what makes me think there's a legitimate chance that he's going to get an opportunity to get signed on Saturday. I hope he goes out and lights it up, takes it really, really seriously. And I hope some team puts him on a roster. And I hope he gets a chance to play in this league and do the things he was doing before. And I hope everyone understands that, you know what? He's still a good quarterback. And also what your political beliefs are have nothing to do with your ability to execute your job. And everybody has to, get that out of their mind that, well, everyone needs to think and believe what I believe. Otherwise, I'm not going to discuss, or I'm not going to watch, or I'm not going to be involved. To me, that's insane. It's asinine. And I think that he also, on the flip side, needs to understand that if you're going to come back into this league, you can't kneel this time around. And I hope he feels like, you know what, I was kneeling for a specific reason. It's been executed now. Everyone knows why I was kneeling. Now we can move on from it. And if that's the case, then this might actually work. That has been all for today's 2 Cent Show. Want to tell you guys, as always, like, subscribe. Love the feedback. I love hearing how you guys felt about some of the past episodes and some of the topics that have been suggested, and that's why I discuss some of the things I do. Anything else moving forward that you guys want to hear, discuss, or talk about, any guests that you guys want me to bring on, please, you guys know what to do. Go to the 2 Cent Show. That's at 2 Cent Show on IG, or hit me up direct. Obviously, my name, Jay Richardson. You can find me there on IG, or Mr. Richardson, Twitter, JRichardson99. Make sure you guys stay involved and continue to share and get the word out. This is going fantastic, and that's all.